Hey guys, it's Miss Rolf back with the second episode of Why Writing Matters. I am so excited today because my guest is a former Bowie student, and I am always super glad to talk to my former students and see what they're up to. Today's guest is Spencer Cobb, who I taught in creative writing for 2 years. She has gone on to much bigger and better things, and she's going to talk to you today about her career working for a Hollywood producer. And I'm going to just screen share for you this. This is the Hollywood producer, Barry Josephson. Sorry, said that a little weird, but this is who she works for. And you can see his credits: Enchanted, some Bones, The Tick, a lot of credits here, still scrolling. Ooh, Tales from the Crypt. I loved that show. So done a lot of cool stuff, produced a lot of cool stuff, and Spencer is currently working for him in Hollywood as his assistant. So stay tuned. She's gonna share with you her experience of how she uses reading and writing every day in her career. Okay, so super excited to have one of my former students here to talk about how she uses writing in her life. I cannot contain my excitement at my next guest. So I'm going to let you introduce yourself. So introduce yourself and tell me a little bit about what you are currently doing for your job.
Okay, cool. Yeah. So I'm Spencer. I am a Bowie grad. I graduated from Bowie in 2015. I had Miss Rolf for 2 years. She's my favorite teacher, so I'm so happy to do this. And then I graduated Bowie in 2015. Now I am an assistant to a Hollywood producer. So I live out in LA. The Hollywood producer is Barry Josephson. So he's the president of Josephson Entertainment. I'm his executive assistant. That's what I do. Do you want me to explain a little bit what I do, or is that?
Yeah, I mean, before we get to that, well, yeah, tell us a little bit about, you don't have to get into the writing bit yet, but like, what is your daily, like, what does your job entail?
Yeah. So we are a smaller production company. So how a lot of times, like out in Hollywood, you have like the big studios like Warner Bros. And Disney and all of those lovely conglomerates. And then Josephson Entertainment is one of those. It's a smaller production company. Generally, you have like your head, the principal, and he's the person who's kind of in charge. In my case, it's Barry Josephson. We have executives underneath him, and it's a smaller company. In total, there's 6 people that work at our company, but we work with all of the big studios. And so we have dozens of movies and films or films and television shows that are under our belt that we are actually developing. But it's kind of, I'd say, I do a lot more than a typical assistant would at a bigger studio, but we're kind of, I work at Josephson Entertainment. So a typical day for me, my responsibilities are, because I'm his assistant, I mostly just make sure like he's doing okay. Just for reference, Barry Josephson, he was the producer of Enchanted. He did Life as We Knew It. He also did Bones and Turn Washington Spies. He was the studio executive that pushed forward Men in Black, back the original one. So he's like well known, well respected in the industry. So most of my day kind of looks like just, I do a lot of scheduling for him, like checking his emails, making sure we're not missing, that kind of typical like assistant duty. But I also, he's the president of the company. He has a lot of people submitting scripts and work to him. So a lot of times I read like the scripts for him, and kind of let him know if it's like worth pursuing or not. I also, we are actively trying to cast a few films right now. So I'm kind of going through a list of like watching a lot of actors in movies, and also as well as like, you know, watching movies for the case of seeing if the director is worth someone pursuing. So I do that as well. And there's also, I build pitch decks. I, you know, write pitch pages. I make, you know, kind of like slides that, you know, our writers and directors use whenever they're pitching. Like, I kind of like do everything under the sun. I help take care of legal. I'm also in charge of our internship department. So I recruit, hire, and then run all of the interns. So making sure that their duties are like, that they have stuff to do, that they're doing them properly. That's kind of it. It's really kind of like a day to day. It's always different.
Okay, so tell me a little bit about your path to this career. Like,
Yeah.
how did you get here?
So I graduated Bowie in 2015. I think I have a little bit more of a typical like college story, but my first year I went to UTSA, and then I transferred to UT Austin. Originally as a corporate communications major, and within about 3 weeks, I like knew it wasn't for me. I was like, absolutely not. This is horrible. I don't want to do corporate communications. I don't even know I thought that would be something that I would enjoy, but I ended up transferring my major to film major. I graduated college in 2019, but the last semester, it was kind of like a study abroad program. So, but instead of going somewhere like cool, I came to LA. And so that last, like spring of 2019, I took classes out here and I did an internship at Josephson Entertainment, which is where I work now. Kind of like made connections. I worked with like the VPs a lot. And then I left the internship, went home, graduated, walked the stage, hugged my mom and dad, and then moved out here officially. Did 2 months of job searching because it's just notoriously difficult to find jobs in LA, specifically for the entertainment industry. And then in July, I was hired as a receptionist at a post-production studio. And then within a month, I was promoted to being production coordinator. So at this production studio, it was mostly post-production. So it did a lot of the recording of voices, mostly for animated shows, like Rick and Morty. I'm trying to think, Thundercats. They did the Tom and Jerry, the like sound effects, the Foley. But mostly what our studio was known for was anime dubbing. So whenever I took over shows, when I became a production coordinator, I was coordinating the talent, creating schedules, and working with directors on mostly anime shows. If you're like students or any fans of anime, I work directly on Bizarre Adventure. I did Demon Slayer. I did one of the Fate shows and Beyblade Burst. Those were like the bigger ones that I did, and a few smaller ones too, and video games and movies and stuff. So I did that for about 5 months. And then in December, my old internship coordinator reached out to me and asked, from Josephson, asked if I was like enjoying my job. And I really liked the people I worked with, but it was in post-production, and I wanted to get more into like pre-production, just more like, if your students don't know, it's more like there's the 3 stages of development.
Right.
There's production, which is when you're shooting films. Pre-production, when is everything planning up to it, and then post-production is, you know, mixing and all that jazz. I really wanted to be in pre-production. I wanted to work with like stories and planning and like all that jazz. So when she asked, like, would you consider, you know, our president, Barry Josephson, is looking for a new assistant, and we kind of thought you would be a good fit. And so I was like, oh, this sounds awesome. I went and interviewed, and like within that afternoon, they like offered me the job. So that was really cool. And then I started here in January, and I feel like I've been working here for 4 months, but with quarantine, it's technically been 8 months. So that's pretty crazy. But yeah, so that's kind of like how I got here. All that, yeah.
Okay, tell me a little bit about the role that writing plays in your job.
Yeah. So I mentioned earlier how I, you know, have to like watch a lot and read a lot. but I can't always just verbally explain like why I like something or why I don't like something to my boss. I have to be able to put it into words, to take a 100-page script and be able to tell them in like one paragraph why I think it's something that we should pursue or something that we should pass on. I also give notes. So a lot of times when I'm for our existing projects, when new drafts come in, I'm one of those people that will read it and kind of point out things that I think could be improved. And I have to be able to kind of convey my ideas of like, I don't think this character is developed well enough, or I don't think that this storyline is tracking, or whatever it is. I have to be able to, take those notes and compile them into like a understandable like document that is something that someone can read and understand. I also have to do a lot of like fake writing for my boss. So that involves like answering emails for him and and so it's really a lot of, I don't do a typical, I'm not like writing essays, but I write every single day.
Okay. And you've touched on this a little bit, but talk about the role of kind of close reading in your job.
Yes.
Like, how does reading, like how is being able to read closely important?
I think so. A lot of people, I think, when they think of movies, they think of the finished project, but movies like always start with a script, and that is a very big. Scripts are not like books where every detail is given. There's, you have to be able, every sentence in a script, if it's well written, is important and is conveying information. So when I'm reading, like I said, 100-page scripts, I'm having to like read and feel the emotion that the writer is putting through. So I'm having to understand, like, is this something that is going to be sellable? Are these characters something that people are going to want to root for? Is this something that is original? It's also that we have to consider, because there's so much movie that's slung around in this industry, and so you really, whenever you're putting like your chips on the table, you really want to be doing it for a good reason. So yeah, I'm constantly, I read 1 to 2 to 3 scripts a day, and I have to kind of efficiently, kind of quickly be able to read it and understand the characters, understand the world that the writer is setting up. And so that way I can kind of try and see the vision that they're trying to paint for us.
So when you say you read 1 to 2 scripts a day, how many pages is that? I just think this would be funny for them to know.
So typically it's pilot, like a screenplay is between generally 1 to 110 pages. So I guess that means I'm reading usually over like 200 pages a day.
A day, kids. All right. Yeah, mind blown. Although I gotta be honest, if somebody was paying me to read scripts, I would be over the moon.
I mean, you'd be surprised.
Unless they're bad. No, actually, I take that back. I've read a lot of bad stuff. I'm a high school teacher. It might also be torture.
By like page 10, but you have to read till the end.
You have to read to the end, even if you hate it by page 10?
Yeah, for me, if it's something that's coming on my boss's desk, usually it's a friend has written it, or a friend's kid, and so I have to be able to like
friend's kid.
Kind of, yeah.
All right. So, how did you learn to be a good writer?
I think I've always enjoyed writing. I mean, I was in your creative writing class, but I think it's something where there's always room for improvement. And I think really I learned how to write just by reading. And that's, listening to, I had such great English teachers that helped a lot. And I think also just constantly reading and understanding how, people that were, for me, adult humans, being able to like write essays or write books, and like taking like those ideas and being able to like, use them in my own writing. And by ideas, I mean like changing up sentence structure, or like what kind of dialogue or whatever, just being able, I think it's hard, I think, to be a good writer if you don't read.
Yeah.
that's a very basic answer that I'm sure you've said before.
I say it all the time. They just never believe me. So I think it'll be
Well, it's true.
better coming from you.
It's definitely true.
My last question is, what is the best writing advice you've ever been given or that you have to share? So I guess share with me the best writing advice that you've been given, and then something that you have learned on your own that you would share.
I think given this might be so obvious, but it was to reread what you write before you turn it in. I like, especially in like middle and high school, was a serial write in one go and then turn it in, not really read over it, because I, part of me was like, I knew I'd want to change stuff and I didn't want to go through the effort of rewriting the essay essentially. But even on like at home, when we would do at home essays and I would kind of skim it, I didn't really reread it again. And that I kind of realized once I hit college and I especially started working in this job, it's like, you're always going to have something that I didn't phrase that properly, let me fix it. Or like, that this isn't clear, I need to like change this, or actually don't agree with this anymore, I'm just going to take it out. And it's now that a lot of this stuff, like I'm sending notes to like high profile writers for them to take, like I want to make sure that like they are well written, because I feel like if there's like a typo, they're not going to like listen to any of my notes. So it's like really important that I, just reread it. And I think as if it's silly of me in high school to like just not want to reread it, but that would be like the best advice, honestly. I think it's pretty basic, but
yeah, you'd be surprised at how many kids were like, oh, I was like, I grade things and I'm like, did you even read this? And they're like, not gonna lie, no. And I'm like,
yeah.
Well, thank you so much for doing this. I am endlessly proud of you. I will say, students, Spencer came into my class pretty talented as it was, and we had like a really good time writing. And I'm so happy that you are now in a position to like get stories out in the world, because I think that like your point of view is going to be very cool.